been using the Periscope Summit hashtag, as we know it's been up here, and if you... Yes, and Periscope Summit, if you notice, it's trending. Exactly, which is huge. And that's the point. It's like, this isn't just like, oh, do it for nothing so it makes us feel good. It's really showing how impactful it is for all of us to come together and, you know, show what we're doing, because this is very new. And the fact that this app is trending and it's on it's at the tip of everybody's tongue. Everyone's like, what's Periscope? I've heard about it. And to see everyone come together like this, it's really setting the bar very high. And I can't wait for San Francisco. I can't wait for Australia. I can't wait for wherever it is after that. So I'm just really excited. And just to hear the information that all of you guys have been giving today is it's inspiring. Like, I feel like I'm going to go out and have the best scopes ever when I leave Periscope Summit. So this is good. So let's see. Do we want to? Let's do it. Okay, let's do it. So while we're waiting for Alexandra, we actually have something a little bit of a surprise. So those of you that are in this room are going to be privy to something that is very special, that everybody's going to be very mad that they aren't here to see. So I'm going to bring up my new good friend, Shawn Thomas of Ask a Millionaire.
Hello.
Yes. Shawn Thomas?
Hey guys. So this is kind of unplanned, and Kathy wanted me to talk a little bit since this subject is going to be on entrepreneurialism. And I go under the social media handle Ask a Millionaire. Some of you guys might know me or might not. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this because when I started the Ask a Millionaire handle in March, it was all around philanthropy. And I came off of being a successful entrepreneur and sold my company in December 2013. And so as we talk about being an entrepreneur, as we're going to hear from these experts here, when I started it in March, it was all about philanthropy. But what Periscope has kind of shown me over the last few months is, as everybody's been talking about, is people watch you like crazy. And so a business has been born in my life out of Periscope by people wanting to talk to me about my expertise in business. So I've never done any type of certification as a coach. I've had coaches, but I now have a life and business coaching program because of Periscope. People wanting to talk to me in detail about the questions and the answers that I give on my Periscope. So it's been pretty cool, and today I actually thought about it in that way as I'm listening to all of the amazing speakers and their businesses that they're creating on Periscope, and it just made me realize, wow, I actually have a business, and I didn't even think about starting a business. So because it was something that I loved and something that I enjoyed doing, and it was a passion of mine, it was able to be monetized. And I think that that's a beautiful thing on Periscope. So that's kind of a little my story about what everybody's doing here. And then last but not least, something that also got my heartstrings going was the start broadcast with Alex and his story today. So being a philanthropist and being the type of person I really enjoy supporting entrepreneurs, we build each other up, not bring each other down. So I talked to a couple of my friends, and Alex, I want you to come up here, dude. So if you guys didn't see, Alex is doing a documentary for Periscope. So I wanted to hand you just a $500 for part of your Indiegogo. And I know that Roger, one of my good friends up here, he's got another $500 to match. Okay?
I love it.
And Amber Aziza and her group, we're not done. Fabiola, Stephanie, and Nikki, they're going to give you another $600. And then my friend JC Limitless and Sammy and my girlfriend are a couple other $100 more for you. So we're going to get you at least into the thousands on your Indiegogo today. All right?
This is community. This is what community looks like. This is it.
All right, thanks guys. I appreciate it, and let's give it over to the experts.
Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Shawn. So guys, this is when we're talking about community and when we're talking about the power of what this is, we're not just here for a piece of technology. We're here about real connections and supporting real dreams and real messages, and that's what this is. So I'm like, am I going to end up moderating this panel today? In just a second, we're going to see where she is. So, well, let's do this. Before Alexandra gets here, because I'm sure she probably has some questions. Do you guys have any questions for these lovely people before we get started?
Should we do introductions real quick?
Yeah, let's do the introductions, and then we'll just start, and then when she comes, she'll fall in. So,
okay, great.
My dear.
So, my name's Dave Shrein. I am an online entrepreneur, started 6 years ago, but went full-time in January of 2014, and the thing that I love doing more than anything else is helping entrepreneurs get unstuck from just silly things that slow them down from launching their dreams, and that's what I do, and that's what I love.
Awesome.
My name is Kim Garst, and I've been an entrepreneur by accident, by the way, since almost 24 years now. When my oldest son was born, I basically started a business. Unbeknownst to me, my goal at the time was to make an extra $200 a month. So I didn't start off saying, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. I literally just worked into that space, love it. I help businesses grow their bottom lines using the power of social and digital media.
I am Jai Stone. I'm a master brand coach based in Atlanta, Georgia. Been in business for 14 years. I would love to tell you that I took the entrepreneurial leap, but actually I was laid off, so I was pushed, right, without a parachute. And so that's how I ended up being an entrepreneur. I help women business owners build profitable brands without compromising their quality of life.
My name is Zack Spuckler. My company is Heart, Soul, and Hustle, and I help online business owners get seen, profitable, and present, specifically with Facebook and Periscope. And at the age of 22, I leveraged both platforms. I had 25 Twitter followers when I started, no real social presence. And I quit my job at 22, went full-time, and now I'm helping other online entrepreneurs do the same thing. I love it.
Hi everyone, I'm Alexandra Colacci. I'm the social media strategist for brands for the past 10 years, and I'm the founder of Influence Buzz, which is a resource site for interviews, tips, and tricks for live streaming. And so I'm so excited to be joined by all our amazing panelists up here. You guys are all doing great things for your business on Periscope. So let's get into how you guys first discovered Periscope. How did you first find out about it?
Start with me.
We'll go this way.
Yeah, so I went out to a conference in LA. I can't remember the conference, but I saw a few people doing it, periscoping, and I was like, this is right? Nice, you guys. I think I might be the youngest one in the room, so just saying. So I saw some people on Periscope, and it was at a really pivotal point in my life where I was like, if I don't step it up, I'm going to be stuck getting a degree I don't want, and a job I don't want, doing things I hate. I decided to do just yet another social media platform, leverage all the stuff I'd learned, and within 30 days it had become a fully functioning, profitable business. So that's just where it started. Is I turned it on one day because I'd heard someone mention it, and then I was hooked.
For me, I heard several people mention it, and I was so not interested in adopting a whole nother platform, streaming or not, right? So I tried it, I tried Meerkat, I tried Hang With, I tried a couple other ones. And Periscope is the one that had the community. But I actually was getting inboxes, emails, text messages. You should try this Periscope thing. I was like, I'm so underwhelmed, right? The first couple times I got on, I was like, so not excited about it. And then all of a sudden I discovered a lady who later came to work with me, Scope Scribe, who's my Periscope administrator. And we worked through the technology issues on it, because you guys know it did not launch on Android, and it did not launch well on Android when it did launch. And so I'm an avid Android user. So it was really, really stressing me out. And what we did was, once we worked through it, the platform became amazing, and I started having explosive numbers. My brand started to grow, the money started to roll in, and so for me, it was a test, a trial by fire. But I heard about it because it was supposed to be the it thing, but I'm just going to be honest, I was so underwhelmed with it, and now I'm like an evangelist.
That's awesome. Well, I was at Social Media Marketing World, a social media conference, obviously, and it was funny because Meerkat had been all over the news the very day before, and then Periscope launched the very next day, and it was March 26th, and I was able to, I downloaded it immediately. I'm like, what's this Periscope thing? But I was speaking at Social Media Marketing World. I had 2 sessions. Things were crazy, and I didn't really pay much attention to it. It's like one of those things, okay, well, this sounds cool, but whatever. But everybody else was downloading it, so I downloaded it. And then we were going over to one of the social events that night, and Donna Moritz and I, another speaker, we did our first, if you can call it our first scope, because how many of you guys have had a horrendous first scope? It was horrendous. Yeah, I think we all do. So, and then I was actually an influencer in an event, probably a month, maybe 6 weeks later, totally out of my frame. I hadn't even gave it a thought since that time. And I actually live streamed Ashton Kutcher's, he was a keynote, and I live streamed it, and it was like all these people came in and started engaging, and light bulbs started going off for me. And I was like, ooh, this is awesome. So then I started, similarly to a lot of what I think everybody else does, you have those horrible first few scopes, and then you kind of get a rhythm. So for me, it was kind of accidental, but I was intrigued by the community.
So my buddy Ryan Bolello kept sending me tweets saying, are you doing Meerkat? Are you doing Meerkat? And I couldn't figure it out. So I was like, nope, I'm not doing Meerkat. And then South by Southwest happened, and everybody's doing Meerkat, so I download it, and it's not your first scope, but I'm just like, I don't know what to do. Best way to use a social network, learn it, is to do it. So I'm just sitting there. And then the second Periscope dropped, I immediately had like 2 people on Meerkat and like 8 people on Periscope. So the decision was made right there which network I was going to adopt, and it coincided with the Icon conference, which is in Phoenix, done by Infusionsoft. And I spent the entire time, I was like, well, what do I know the most about? Okay, Twitter. So I just talked about Twitter, and I just said, ask an entrepreneur any questions about building your business through Twitter. And yeah, light bulbs started going off, and 6 months later, here we are.
And so community is such an important part of building that whether it's a personal brand, a business brand, and I think is a huge part of the explosive growth of Periscope. What are some ways that you guys cultivate that sense of community and build that sense of community for those followers of your personal brands and business brands?
Yeah, so I'll jump in that one, because I actually built my community almost exclusively through Periscope to start, and we're heart hustlers, and it just so happened to be that I picked the name before Periscope really became central. So now we hustle and we get hearts. So it works out great. But I think that the biggest thing to building community is that a lot of the times we follow people online or in magazines or on television, and we're like, oh my gosh, they're so perfect. Like, I want that life. And I've done scopes where I am so overwhelmed, so frustrated, so don't want to deal with this. I love you guys to death, but please don't call, please don't text, please don't message. And that's where people really resonate with is that authenticity where, I've cried on Periscope way too many times. I'm a super emotional person. But, that's where people are connecting with you, because nobody wants to connect with perfection. They want to connect with authenticity. So for me, authenticity is probably the most important thing to community building.
One of the big, ladies first.
Thank you. And so I guess after this next statement, I don't know how much of a lady I am, but a lot of what I do, I don't know if you're going to still feel the same way. But a lot of what I do is definitely, I had somewhat of a following, but Periscope brought a whole new following to me. And so for the sense of community, we're Scope Squad. Shout out to the Scope Squad. And so what I do is just really find out what they need from me. So we have really reciprocal relationships, but I think the biggest thing for me has been to start to engage with them offline. So having live events to actually make the relationships more cohesive. So that's been a big thing. And like Zach, I'm really, really authentic online. Like I was saying, I dropped the F-bomb. You come into my scopes and you're like, oh, she's got a potty mouth. And I was like, oh yeah, sorry. Right? And so, but I'm super authentic about my anger, my frustrations, my imperfections. I talk about my challenges with everything from obesity to remonetizing my business after it did really, really well and then didn't do so well. And so I think we always want people to think that we're on top. And the truth of the matter is sometimes, you go to the top and you end up at the bottom and you've got to rebuild it over again. And so when you've got that going on, they understand this person is giving me not just the pretty parts of entrepreneurship, but also the mistakes. And in 14 years, I made a lot of mistakes. Okay, and so I'm really, really, really transparent about those mistakes. But the biggest thing is just really, really getting them to engage with each other. So it's not just the Jai Stone show. It's about the Scope Squad. It's about the community. Brand Hustle Cash Flow is the name of the community on Facebook. It's about them realizing that they're each other's greatest asset, not just me.
I love what she just said, and that's really there's two things. The biggest struggle that a lot of people face on social media is just being themselves. And, everybody says, oh, you have to have a book to be successful. So I was like, okay, what am I going to write a book about? What is the biggest struggle that I see people face? So I wrote a book called Will the Real You Please Stand Up? And it's all about how do you build an authentic brand on social media? How do you show up and be you? And you think, well, how can people should know how to be themselves, and yet so many of them don't. But specifically to your point, what I think is most intriguing to me, I love that I can have that real engagement with people. I can answer questions. I get that instant feedback. You know, they get the instant feedback as well. You know, instead of, you know, asking me a question on Twitter and maybe I get a chance to get back to them, you know, 3 or 4 hours later, they get an immediate response. But bigger than that, and is exactly what you said, is have you guys been on a scope where everybody's actually talking to one another? They're not, in some cases you think, are they even listening? And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm like, you guys go for it. Talk, 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 because that's true community. You know, that's what I'm always telling people. It's not about just you attracting an audience. True community is not just you talking to a bunch of people. It's talking to each other. So I think that's the value proposition. If you can foster an environment to where people are not only talking to you and engaging with you, but talking to each other, which I think Periscope has facilitated at scale for us because it's been so hard for that to really happen on social media. Like I do a Facebook Friday every week, and so I see people engaging there, but for the most part, people don't jump into other people's conversations on social media. I mean, some do, but for the most part, they don't engage with each other. So that's the beauty, I think, of Periscope, is absolutely the community, which is the focus of this event, which is incredibly cool.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed. And something, a distinguishing factor for me, because the community part is definitely central to it, because without it, I mean, you're just talking to your phone and you don't have, you know, retention. People don't come back if they don't feel like they're a part. One of the things that I did is, what do so many people have questions about? Like, well, what am I going to talk about? You know, what do I have to say? So, you know, Kim Garst is talking about Facebook. What do I have to say? They could just go to Kim Garst. And what I realized was, look, like, a lot of times I'm not teaching. That's what I wanted to use Periscope for, was to teach and get better at teaching and helping to explain things to clients and things to people so that they could get unstuck. And I said, well, I'm not teaching my peers. I'm teaching people who are a year, you know, removed from where I'm at, or 2 years removed from where I'm at. So what I really started to do was tell my story without saying the word I, without saying the word me. Just tell my story and say, you guys know that feeling when you work super hard putting together a title on Facebook, putting together a post. You work hard, you think you got it right, you do everything you hear everyone say, and then crickets, nothing happens. And people are like, yes, I know exactly how that is. And like, that still happens, but that's who I really wanted to talk to. And out of that, a community has kind of risen up of like, wow, people really get me. They know the frustrations that I feel each and every day. And so it's been really cool to say, look, like, I understand this because I was only there like 6 months ago. I'm making it up as I go. You don't have to have it all together. There's no right way. Make it up as you go using best principles. And so that's been really fun.
I think any entrepreneur, frankly, you know, we fail every day. I mean, nobody's perfect. And owning those failures and letting people know it's okay to fail, you really only truly fail when you give up or you quit. So, you know, being transparent, like I was real transparent out the gate, was, dude, I mean, guys, I don't know, I'm new like you guys. As I was trying things and trying to develop my own strategies for Periscope, I just told people that's what I was doing, you know, and let them learn through the experience with me. Because it truly is an experience. Periscope is an experience. People come on you. It's not just about, you know, sharing. It absolutely is about value. But it's also about experience and entertainment, you know, connecting with people around personalities. So it doesn't matter where you start. You know, people are experts around, it doesn't, again, you say, well, I'm not an expert, or maybe I don't think I'm an expert. And I'm not a big fan of the term expert because I just think, you know, but yet we have to leverage it, right? As business owners, we leverage that term. But expertness, we all have a level of expertness because somebody behind us doesn't know what we know. So that's the value. Like Alex just started 6 months ago. So there's a lot of people, and incidentally, we all started at the same place. We didn't.
You started with 0 followers?
0 followers.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Ooh, that's such a relief.
Yes, and 0. Well, more specifically on Periscope, we start with 1 heart and 1 follower, guys. We all start at the same place.
And I think that's an important point, Dave, because, you know, a lot of times we look at people who are successful, and some of you had a following already online and other places, and some of you, you know, was more starting out. You were a little early in your career. But, you know, that's so important. I think we need to look at it as, hey, everyone starts at 0, even people who do have following elsewhere, and we've seen people who have kind of come out of nowhere and had a large following that grew on Periscope. And how did you guys start to involve the community in getting feedback as you were growing that following? Because that's so important as a business person to change directions, find out what's working, what's not working. What are some of the ways that they've changed directions for you, just giving feedback as you're developing new products or new launches you're working on?
Well, for me, I started with essentially no presence. 25 on Twitter, less than 500 on Facebook, very low Instagram following. I just been behind the scenes for a very long time. I always acted in a supporting role. I knew what I was doing. I just never came to the forefront. And so to really get my community engaged, I just talked about what I knew. And my like famous like claim to fame when it comes to expertise is I always say like, how many of you would be really confident selling a service where you teach the people around you how to read at a first grade level? And everyone's like, well, that would be so hard to package and sell at a premium price. And I'm like, well, Hooked on Phonics was like a massively successful product because adults are experts to children. And in the same way, you know how to read, some people don't know how to read. I know how to do Facebook ads, some people don't. Twitter ads, blow my mind, and yet I would definitely follow somebody else. So for me, finding out where that expertise was and then actually just asking the community, like some people are like, well, how do you ask? How do you ask? How do you ask? How do you get that feedback? For me, I'm like, well, what would you pay? How much would you pay for that? Do you like this idea? What would you want to see? And so I start very basic. Would you pay this much? Yes, no. Would you like to see this? Yes, no. And then as I build the engagement, as people start talking in the room, you can kind of get more broad. So, oh, okay, so you would pay for this. Well, what do you want to see? And I built out multiple courses that way that have all sold instantaneously from the time of launch.
It's so great when you actually know what people want because they'll tell you, guys. I mean, all you have to do is listen. You have to ask. So it's two things, I think. Listening to conversations as people are engaging with you and engaging with each other, because lots of times you get invaluable feedback from just that. Watching other people ask other people questions, it's like, well, they don't know that. Wow. And then so that's the listening aspect. And then asking. I routinely ask, hey, guys, can I pick your brain for a few minutes? And so then I'll just ask questions and get that feedback. And to exactly Zach's point, you can even go deep dive into price points. Guys, what would you pay for this? And getting that market feedback is huge because again, from a standpoint of launching a product, lots of times we guess. We're like, okay, we think we know what our audience wants. We create entire products around what we think our audience wants. And then we guess at what people are going to pay for them. That's what's so immediate about Periscope is people will tell us. Not only will they tell us, hey guys, this is a pain point for me. I would love to have a solution to this, which again, if we roll out a solution to that, don't you think they're going to pay for it? And then not only that, but they will also tell us, I think that would be really valuable and I'd be willing to pay $47 for that, or I'd be willing to pay $97 for that. Or, hey, if you would work one-on-one with me, I'd be willing to pay you, $5.97. So it depends on, your scenario and your product and your service, obviously. But the listening and the asking is incredibly important.
I think for me, I had a two-pronged approach to really figuring out what the community wanted. One of them was being really, really, really strategic from an analytical perspective. I talked about my Periscope administrator. The reason why I even have one is because I had a challenge with trying to keep up with the comments and deliver the content at the same time, right? So I'm a little challenged in that way. I was like, okay, wait, what was our point number one? Wait, what did you have? A question? And so it was like I couldn't really manage both at the same time initially. And she would come in and like recap the scopes. So my approach to finding out what they needed was like a machine gun Kelly. It was like, I just machine guns, sprayed them with content, right? And it's like, I got like, literally like, so I got like 1 million hearts in like 5 weeks and like 2,000 followers. It was crazy because I was given all of this content. It was crazy. But Scope Squad was on the back end saying, this is where you got the largest number of followers. These are the questions that you keep getting asked consistently. Let's do a scope on this particular topic and see if we get the numbers. And that's how we figured out what to do a live event around or what we do a product around. And so for her, catching the analytics on the back end, me getting the content on the front end, because I've been in business 14 years. So I have a lot of content. I know a lot of stuff about a lot of things around building brands. And so I couldn't figure out exactly how to water that down so that they got what they needed. And so once we got to that point, I created the Just Ask Jay hashtag. And now when they have questions, they'll tweet it to me. And so now they're more engaged because now they know they're going to get real answers to real questions. That's one of the mistakes I think people make, is they give generalized answers, right, instead of specific answers.
You just said something that's really valuable, and I just want to highlight it, is those questions, guys, are scope titles.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when people are asking you questions because it's a pain point for them, that's a scope title. Scope titles are the first entry point into your scope. If it's not value-based, if you don't tell people what's in it for them, then they're not going to come in. So use those use those questions and answer those specific questions, which I think, I mean, that sometimes we don't think of that. You know, I love your idea about using the hashtag. That's brilliant.
So one of the things that I really struggle with is asking for feedback, right? Like, I'll just tell you, like, I make a lot of assumptions, and half of that is probably okay, and half of it's not okay. Because on one side, I really remember what it was like to be me 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and how frustrated I was when I was searching the internet trying to find answers. And so I really try to go back to that place and just think, like, what is it that frustrated me? Because somebody right now is frustrated by this exact same thing. So, like, the answers are already within you based upon what you've searched for in the past, based upon what you've looked at. I'm bad at asking for feedback, but one of the reasons why is because I don't have time. Everyone's like, I go back through my scopes and I look at all the questions. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's no way I'm going to have time to do that. And you just brought up an incredible point. If you think that you can do it all on your own, like, you're kind of fooling yourself, because for you to take an hour and a half to go back and watch your scopes when you could pay somebody 10, 15, 17 bucks an hour, yes, you might not have that money, but it's what you call an investment. And by virtue of the title, like, you are making an investment financially and helping somebody curate all that stuff for you, so that you can reap the rewards later. And rather than curating all the questions, you develop the answers for the questions. Let somebody else curate them. You develop the answers and build the content.
Well, and to that point, I mean, I know that a big struggle, because I do work with a lot of starting entrepreneurs, is that they don't want to invest that money.
Yeah.
And so I tell people, like, the exact same thing, like, suck it up, Buttercup. It's not free. Sorry. But at the flip side, there are things you can do. So for me, I identify key players inside of my course and inside of my community. And so, like, sometimes it's not as simple as yes, no, maybe, and you're like, oh my gosh, I get this question all the time. Do not have time to answer it again. Sleep is, like, lost in my life. I would be so nice to take a nap right now. So I just tag someone and say, like, hey, I'm so glad you asked. I've answered this a few times, and my friend, insert here, absolutely love that. It helps your community because you're engaging your community members as experts. It helps you because you're creating time. And if that gets a response, you're doing the community research right there. Because they asked the question, they got an answer, and then boom, you have a Periscope or a Facebook or a Twitter conversation that you can go back, and you don't even have to curate it anymore, because you just let your community do all the work and feel served and supported in that regard.
And it's so unique. I think social media, the time frames are getting shorter and shorter for us having to get feedback, because, you know, first it was email, and then still that's an important thing, but Twitter and some of those things that are much more immediate. And imagine right now we're doing this real time, able to sit there and have conversations with people on the fly, ask for feedback, and build things very quickly, which is so unique to this channel, this medium. And it's really, really exciting times. Did you guys have an aha moment when it was just, you know, you realize how big this was becoming and how impactful it was to your business, and how has it impacted your business?
Okay, I'll start again. So for me, I am a fairly confident person, so I'll scope from anywhere. Walking down the street, at the Starbucks, the people at Starbucks know me by name and drink order and ask me what I'm going to scope about today. It doesn't bother me. And my biggest aha moment was I had been starting really slowly, and I had made about 1,000 to 2,000 a week my first 3 or 4 weeks, and people were like, how are you doing it? How are you doing it? How are you doing it? And I was like, you know, I just kind of am. So I sat down in Starbucks, and it was 39-minute scope. I know, because I've totally branded the heck out of it. It was a 39-minute scope, and I just said, like, okay, well, you guys are kind of asking for this. I've kind of created this mind map for a potential course that maybe I'll make if you like it. Like, I could not have been more unsure about whether or not I was going to do it. And people were like, yes, 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 yes. And I was like, yeah, okay, you all say yes, but I've done this before, but would you actually pay? And they're like, yeah, we would. And someone goes, make a PayPal button. So live on Scope, I made a PayPal button, set up a link to it, and made $1,200 in 39 minutes at a Starbucks. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Did you buy another latte?
I was like, I'm gonna be a Gold Card member in no time. so that's when it hit me, is that it's like no one is here asking you to be perfect. Like, there are days where I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was so bad, nobody's gonna buy anything, and then I like put my phone down and come back to it, and it's like ping, 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 money, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And the best part is when you do it this way, the even bigger aha moment was about 2 weeks later when people sent me emails saying thank you. And never before had I felt like I could sell something and have people be thankful to be investing in ultimately themselves, but really me. I mean, that's who they put their faith in. So it was that money that really made me feel good. And then beyond that, it was like, oh my gosh, people are actually grateful to spend money with me. And that's just such a special feeling that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I have to agree. When people who don't know you and haven't been following you, and all of a sudden they decide to go into their purchase, I mean, this is a hard time for a lot of people, right? And so when they decide to invest in what you're sharing with them, that's an honor. And so you just have to be, that for me, that shows a lot of respect. My aha moment was, I know I saw a scoper on bragging about having 500,000 hearts, right? And I just thought that it was very disrespectful, because those are not hearts, they're heartbeats on the other side. And so for me, when I did the intensive, when we realized we had a one-day class and we realized what everybody wanted, when people flew in from other cities for one day, from across the country, just for one day with me, that was humbling when I walked in the room. And I went to the facility and they were like, Jay, your people are already here. I was like, they're here already? It's like 30 minutes ago. They were like, no, they was here at like 7:30, girl. They was really ready. And the fact that they flew in, that means the flight, that means the hotel, that means the transportation to the venue. And so I was like, this is not about hearts, it's about heartbeats and putting heartbeats in seats. That was my aha moment.
And I've had actually numerous aha moments from an exact similar experiences as both of you guys, actually. But for me, it was just this weekend. I had my Social Boom event, and there were people who had never knew me before, a Periscope, who approached me and said, well, one, go back to your point, the know, like, and trust factor is such a big part of getting people to spend money with you. And, in traditional social media, it takes a while for that to happen. And yet, most people have had exposure to me on Periscope for, 3 or 4 months now. So not only did they spend money on a ticket and airfare and, all of the things that are associated with coming to another location to consume content, but person after person walked up to me and said, you've changed my life. You've changed my life, Not my business. There is a difference. Business is absolutely is a part of life, right? But that you've changed my life. You've changed my life. That was like got me back to a place where it's a duty, to serve people. It's an honor to serve people. And when people, validate that you've actually made an impact, it's like, wow, it's a big aha moment. When people just text you and say, or not tweet you and say, thank you, I appreciate, I've learned a lot from you. It is so different when you're like looking in somebody's eyes and their tears are running down their face and they tell you that you have changed their life. That is an aha moment where you just get yourself back out there and you keep working. That's...
Yeah.
So I'm going to go the other direction. When you get haters, I think that was a big aha moment to me. And I remember my first hater. I was doing a podcast, and okay, so if anybody loves soccer, I'm so sorry, but it's just me. I don't like soccer. And so maybe I shouldn't have, but I ragged on the World Cup in my podcast in a tongue-in-cheek way that's very consistent with who I am. It wasn't mean-spirited or nothing, but I had a hater come through. It's a communication podcast. And so he was just really, really trying to dig it home, like, you don't know what you're talking about in his comment. And so naturally, like, this is my first hater. Oh my gosh, what do I do? And so I crafted this, I'm really, really good with words. So I put together a very articulate email, very well thought out. I didn't send it. I went back and looked at it. I sent it out, and he still hasn't responded. And so it was like one of these deals, like, he was so passionate to tell me how bad I did. Why didn't he receive? Well, because he was just hating on it. Like, I don't know what it was, jealousy, whatever. But the more haters that come through, and I mean, I would agree with everything, but just for the sake of throwing something different out there so you can hear a different answer, when you have haters coming in and hating on you and giving you a hard time and picking apart your vocabulary, picking apart little things that don't prevent you from shining and who you are, like, you know that you've arrived because somebody's watching you thinking, why do they have what I rightfully deserve? Why do they have it? And all they can do is just bring you down. So when you get haters, just be like, all right, I know I'm doing something right because people are listening and they're resonating and they're so fed up with the fact that they haven't done it and I am. So there you go. That's how I know. That was that aha moment when I started getting haters.
And I'm going to say another form of hating is copycats, just to be clear. I'm just going to throw a little shade out there just so y'all know.
And the reality is the haters aren't your ideal client or customers anyway, guys. Let them go, you know. Don't let them, you know, and, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, somebody doesn't like me. You know, and that's the way I used to be. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, somebody doesn't like me. You know, but the reality is that not everybody's going to like you guys. I mean, everybody resonates with certain personalities, and they hate others. So let those folks just go on about their way and just continue to serve and do what you do and let your light shine. Don't let them dim your light.
One of the biggest things that helped me get to that, because it still hurts. Like, I mean, I get that stuff, and I'm like, what in the world is your deal, man? You got nothing better to do in your life? One of the things that really helped me is there's this dude named Justin Wise. I recommend you all follow him. It's just Justin Wise, the way it would sound. You'd think of Justin Wise. He said something, look, you are going to attract or repel people, and both of those are really, really good things. If you are not attracting or repelling people, and people are just kind of like, then, like, you're not doing something right, because you want people who are like, whatever this person says, I'm going to do it because it's worked. I see it working for them. It's worked for me. Whatever it is, I just can't get enough. And if somebody's like, I can't stand that person, yeah, it's not your ideal client. Be cool with that. That's why you don't have 10 million friends every time you walk into Target, because everybody's attracted to somebody different. So there's somebody waiting, like literally waiting right now to hear your voice, because your story will resonate with theirs.
Dave, I don't know about that. Everybody likes it.
Yeah.
And what you put out there comes back to you. That's what you attract. So, you know, and if you're not attracting and or repelling, you know, to go back to Brian Danzo's point earlier, you might be stinky. You know.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, I think you're definitely going to have your yaysayers, your naysayers, and it's something so public like live streaming, so real time, and people can hop in, and there are the trolls and all that kind of stuff. But you know, just I heard the other day someone say, prove your yaysayers right. You know, really like just validate what that community is bringing to you, and they come to your defense a lot of times and things like that. And you're going to hear the people who are saying things, and eventually you build that community that is like, no, we know who this person is, and what you're saying is not true. So I think you guys have all seen, you know, I'm sure that it's something that is scary when you first have it happen, or the first few times, but you know, build that, as you build that thicker skin, it's very important on something that's so like clear and real as live streaming is. And so, what are some of the ways that you guys have partnered with other entrepreneurs on Periscope or live streaming?
So I've worked with several different live streamers and online entrepreneurs, and for me, Periscope is really a cool way to get your foot in the door, because I don't know about you guys, but like, I love FaceTime, right? Anybody like, yeah, you FaceTime all the time? Well, it's really cool because when you Periscope, you're actually FaceTiming. It's just one way. And so I've connected with some really great influencers to do joint ventures and product launches and endorsements, and like, just like, oh, I really want to know, can I pick your brain? As long as I can pick your brain, like, and we just collab for an hour totally offline. But I have yet to get on Skype or in person with a single person who I've connected with on Periscope where we remember to introduce ourselves, because we just right into it, because we already know each other. And so the question is, like, how am I collaborating? I'm building relationships. and I'm allowing the collaborations to happen naturally, because it's super easy to send out 100 emails and be like, endorse my product because you'll get 50%, so worth your time, blah, 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 I converted this percent, and people will bite, and they will, and you'll sell stuff. But I want money that feels good, I don't want money that feels easy. And when I get the good money and the good people, that comes from our relationship.
Tweet it out, folks. Hashtag Periscope Summit.
That's a tweetable, and you can tag me. It's @HeartSoul.
I know for me, so total transparency, I'm a brand snob, right? I'm a brand coach, I'm a brand snob. So I haven't really actually done a whole lot with other scopers, and that's intentional. Everything that I do is intentional. Now let me give you the second part to that, because I know it sounded a little stank. So what I did was I actually got people that I already partner with offline to get on Periscope so that I can introduce them to the audience and bring more value. So it's like Sister Sense, is she in here? Sister Sense and a couple other people that I know, that bring like a high quality of value. Because for me, it's all about the quality of content, and it's about delivering quality content every day. And so because it's a lot of people on Periscope, I just don't know. Right? And so the know, like, trust factor that Kim mentioned, that know, like, trust, I need to trust you, because when I put, my credibility transfers to you when I put you in front of my audience, and I need to know that. And I've been doing business with a lot of people for a lot of years, and so it was important to me that when I say, this is who I work with, or this is who I connected with, or this is who coaches me, I need them to go, if they spend money, that money doesn't just fly out of the window and they don't even get value from it. So it's about delivering value every day. Just quick story, I promise it'll be really, really short. When the people came to my intensive, one person had been following me for 5 years, and one person had been following me for 2 days before they bought in. Wow. That was delivering content every day, because you never know what day somebody's going to show up prepared to spend money to get what you have, so you have to deliver every day. You can't really afford to have an off day. That was one of the things I loved about Zack. There is no off day. Even when he's crying, there's still some value in the tears. You have to do that. Show content every day and make sure that your credibility is one of the biggest pieces of your brand that will make people buy into you. Yeah. Don't ever compromise that under any circumstances, not even if you think that there's dollars attached to it.
I would totally agree. You know, there's even like affiliate marketing, for example, you know, that's a great monetization strategy for sure. But my recommendation has always been, specifically to your point, don't recommend something that you're not using or that you don't feel is valuable. And likewise with people. I mean, it's exactly the same thing. Don't give somebody else an audience for what you worked very hard to create and build relationships with that audience if that person isn't going to add value to your community. So, you know, that said, though, I have worked with many of the actual speakers here, and, you know, Ryan Steinolfson. We've done some scopes together. We've done, you know, some blabs. So, and many others as well. So the opportunities for the actual relationships to come into real life, even like we did a Periscope meetup essentially in Tampa. So all of those types of things are such great opportunities. And again, those relationships. So I've formed great relationships, but even more specifically, I see people in my stream all the time saying, hey, let's meet up on Facebook, or meet up over on Twitter, or let's Skype. So it's not just about the relationships I've seen forming or that I've formed and then taken into some sort of a collaborative environment, but I'm seeing them happen live and in real time on my scopes, which is, again, that's the community value proposition, guys. That's incredibly valuable.
So one of the ways that I've been collaborating is the thing that would be, so a theme with me is always looking back at what I needed the most, okay? Like that's a